Good morning and welcome to my practice. Today we're going to discuss the third and final part of the topic that we've been covering recently, sexual abuse of a child in a school setting. Today we're going to discuss how to recognize sexual abuse in a child and what to do when you determine that something this nefarious is going on with your child. So signs of sexual abuse in smaller children, and here a quick disclaimer, I can only speak on this topic as a lay person, lay observer of my clients, the victims, and through reiteration by their parents of what they observed in their children. I am not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, and I'm not a medical doctor. But from the kids that I have represented, the first and most obvious signs of sexual abuse, especially in smaller children, are the following. Withdrawal from favorite activities. The child suddenly doesn't want to do what they normally love to do. Lack of appetite. A sudden onset of stomach pains. Suddenly, out of the blue, the child is starting to have stomach pains and you can't put a finger on it. What is causing it? A child that's normally very social starts becoming withdrawn, quiet, wants to spend time by herself or himself. A child starts avoiding certain people, doesn't want to go to school, cries or throws a temper tantrum when a parent wants to drop them off at school. With older kids, some of these symptoms will be the same, but older kids will also resort into self-harm and, in worst case scenario, attempts of suicide. When that stuff is happening, when your child is trying to attempt suicide, that you're red flagged all over the place. There is no more turning back. There's only moving forward to resolve the situation. So first and foremost, when you see these signs, try to talk to your children. The child may not want to confide in a parent because especially older children will be afraid how the parent will react. So encourage speaking to an older sibling, favorite aunt or uncle, grandparent, maybe family friend, someone whom you trust, but also someone you think your child will open to. Because this is a very difficult conversation to have, and children, I'm going to say it again, are terrified how the parent will react. So, and under no circumstances should a parent examine the child on their own. So, and why is that? I once was involved in a custody battle between a couple that was partners, they were not married, and mom was convinced that my client, the dad, was sexually abusing their daughter, and she examined her daughter's private parts every day, or at least every time the child will come back from dad's time with dad. So don't do it, because once the judge found out what mom was doing, judge referred mom for psychiatric evaluation. So don't do it. If you have suspicions of sexual abuse of your child, immediately make an emergency appointment with the child's pediatrician or take the child to the ER. That's the best way you can handle this situation. So these are the signs to look for. These are the steps to take. And now, what are the technical or procedural steps to take when your worst nightmare is being confirmed? Also, when you have these suspicions and you can somehow find out from the child who the adult, or maybe another person from school, it could be another student that's assaulting your child. If you find out who that is, you immediately notify the school. Everything has to be kept in writing. No phone calls, no, if you go to a meeting, bring a friend. But notification has to be in writing. You send that email to the principal, vice principal only. Do not send the email to the child's teacher, any type of teacher's assistant. You send it to the principal, to the head of school. You then go to the police department and file a report. And you demand that the police investigates the issue. You then contact Office of Student Protection. That's the next step. And the final step, you're going to contact DCFS. So DCFS, here is a weird thing with DCFS. Once you notify DCFS, DCFS will take the issue to the school. Don't be surprised for 1 second if DCFS turns around and not only tries to investigate the school, but they will try to investigate you. After all, we're talking about sexual abuse of a child. So if that happens, you got obviously nothing to hide. You didn't harm your child. Fully cooperate, make everything available to DCFS. Let them come into your home, let them talk to the child, and you will take it from there. And once you're ready, once all the important steps have taken place, you can then start talking and start seeking help from an attorney. So today will be a twist to this whole sexual abuse scenario, because I can tie almost any case to immigration issue. So how do we tie sexual abuse cases to immigration issue, and how your worst nightmare, and I'm going to use a line from This Is Us, how can you make, when life gives you lemons, how can you make something resembling lemonade? So here it is. If, for example, you're a parent who crossed the border illegally and your child was born here, great. But if you and your child crossed the border illegally, how can you benefit from this situation from immigration perspective? And here is when U visa comes in. And I've done this for my clients, because I told you in part 1 that the children who are usually abused are children, or targeted for abuse, are children of immigrants, especially parents who speak very little English, who are new to the country, or speak no English whatsoever. So how can you tie this to a U visa situation, and how can you benefit from it from immigration perspective? So U visa, and I'm just gonna bring out my handy dandy chart, applies to victims of certain criminal activities. And I'll just list a couple of them: abduction, abusive sexual conduct, blackmail, domestic violence, extortion, false imprisonment, felonious assault, incest, involuntary servitude, kidnapping, manslaughter, murder, and many, many others. So because your child's situation is literally second on the list, not only your child, but you as the parent will qualify for U visa. So you are the indirect victim because you are in the state of shock. You have to deal with after effects of the sexual abuse. You will qualify for U visa. But U visa has one requirement, the most important requirement. You have to report the crime to the police, and you have to cooperate with the police and later on with prosecution in prosecuting and bringing that perpetrator to justice. So this is how you can benefit from this horrific scenario. And that being said, I strongly encourage you, and as some of you may already know, U visas do lead to green cards. The process is pretty lengthy, but it's worth the wait. So I strongly encourage you to check out my website. My contact information is on the screen. And please subscribe, tell your friends about me, call my office for further and specific advice. And I will see you next time. And like I said, we will dive into other immigration issues. We will dive into bullying in a school setting. And we will eventually talk about divorces. Thank you so much. And I'll see you next time.